Hey, what's up? Jeff with Voth Quality Creative. Let's get into it. Ever since I can remember, I've been a Seattle Mariners fan. That's me in the Kingdome, probably trying to chase down Ken Griffey Jr. for his autograph. When they clinched their postseason spot, I knew I had to make something. I knew they were going somewhere, right? The idea was to create a sign that I could color up specifically for the Mariners. So let's get into it and get a little dirty. I threw a 4x8 sheet of plywood onto the CNC bed and got right to cutting. The tabs that I had created were way too shallow, so you can see that the ball got sucked up by the vacuum. I later adjusted that and cut extra balls off to the side. I chose to cut a lot of supports for the MLB logo. This way it raises it off the base so I can backlight it later. Watching the CNC do its thing. Ho! Watch out! Here you can see those balls that I was talking about earlier. I also added a 3/8 inch dowel hole to make alignment a lot easier later on in the process. And come to think of it, I probably should have added alignment holes to the rest of the logo, but live and learn, I guess. When the cutting was done, I did a little bit of cleanup and I chiseled away at the tabs that the CNC had created. I used a downcut bit, so these tabs were actually really difficult to find. There was so much sawdust that the vacuum couldn't pick up. Lesson learned. Once all the pieces were removed, I was able to stack up the support pieces and put the MLB logo on top to get an overall vibe of how the logo is going to look. I was able to take the smaller pieces to the sander to sand off all the tabs. For the bulk of the logo though, I had to manually sand to make the tabs smooth. And here I'm getting the overall look for how that ball logo is going to sit with the rest of the logo. Did I mention I had to do some manual sanding? And I had to do a lot of sanding. After sanding down most of the high spots, it was time to clean up the rest of the shop. It was now time for assembly, so I took the pieces home and I just got after it. I wiped the base and support pieces down so I could have a really clean surface for the glue. My original intention was just to use glue and brad nails to secure everything. It would have been a lot easier had I had those alignment dowel holes that I was mentioning earlier. The glue up was a little nerve-wracking, but not terrible, and I just had a little bit of cleanup to do. Using the brad nails to secure it allowed me not to have to wait in between stacking the support pieces. I only had a couple of mistakes where brad nails blew out of the side, but I was able to file them down and make it look like nothing had ever happened. To get ready for paint, I put down tape in order to preserve the surfaces where I didn't want any paint to come and where glue would be used to adhere the top logo later. Here I'm gluing up all of the support pieces for the ball and the finished ball itself. This is definitely a little bit of an awkward setup, so I'm just using painter's tape as a clamp here. Once that was all done, I was able to take it outside the next day and get ready for paint. I mentioned that I was planning on backlighting this earlier. Here I'm drilling holes for all of the wire head. Let's get rid of all that dust. Once the surfaces were clean enough to my standards, I was able to spray paint all over this. And I probably did too many coats. I think I did 4 coats of primer and then 2 or 3 finish coats. I made sure to do the base separate from the finished top logo, just to ensure that I got paint everywhere that I wanted it to be. I flipped the top logo over and threw some tape on it so it could adhere to the base later. I even had some help from my best friend. Once I was satisfied with the finished coat, I could remove all the tape to get ready for the glue up. Speaking of glue up, let's not forget the ball. And here I'm just using some weight as a clamp. Okay, next step is to light up this bad boy. I fed wire through the holes that I cut earlier and got after adhering the LED light strips to the base. I went around the entire logo, really making sure to focus on the internal corners. These things were really easy to use, and I could customize the size just by using a pair of scissors. Once I was finished with both sides, I was able to put the final logo on top just to see what it would look like. I probably spent way too much time here with the color configurations and all the settings, but I was pretty proud at this point and I was having a lot of fun. Once I was done messing around, I could finally glue the top piece to the supporting base. This project used a lot of blue tape for my clamping supports. Gotta love seeing that glue squeeze out. After the glue had dried, I was able to work on all of the finishing touches. I did notice an imperfection from one of the things that I used as a weight, so I had to do a little light sanding for the finished coat. I don't know if I mentioned how much sanding I did. MDF just sucks up the paint and all the fibers stand up and stick out. So I probably sanded this thing 10 different times to get all those fibers to knock down and be smooth. Ooh, and here are some glamour shots of essentially the finished product. Overall, I'm really pleased with how this turned out, and I can configure it to whatever color I want. So I can watch the Seattle Mariners with their MLB logo. I was so excited that I even attended their playoff home game. I was hoping that they would bring home a W, but I guess there's always next season. And I guess it's a good thing that I can color this MLB logo to whatever I want.